Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Emergency Management Associates. Coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our show today. This is a preliminary show about Hurricane Francine. Hurricane Francine. We told you all last night about the birth of Hurricane Francine and what was going on. I'm going to update you about what is going on with Hurricane Francine right now. Before I get started with that, however, I need to make a couple statements here. Yesterday, we had a very huge eruption on the sun. Literally, the entire sun erupted. The backside of the sun that is not Earth-facing and the Earth-facing side of the sun also erupted. I want to tell you right now, you can go over to Mark Wages World here on YouTube. Wages World here on YouTube to find out more about that. And I'm serious about this. It's a big story, so you need to go over there and watch that as soon as we get off the air right now, in just a few minutes. However, I want to talk to you about what is going on with Hurricane Francine. This is a big storm, and I'm going to be very emphatic with you. If you live anywhere along the Gulf Shore of Texas, actually northeastern New Mexico or northeastern Mexico, southeastern Texas, southern Texas, and southeastern Texas, you need to get ready to go. If you live over in Louisiana, and I don't care where in Louisiana you live, you need to be getting ready to go right now. You need to make a decision what you're going to do. Whether you are going to bug out. We talked a little bit about bugging out last night. We're going to talk a little bit more about it this evening, because I'm going to be very emphatic about what this hurricane is going to do. Weather forecasters are now saying that this storm could be a Category 2 storm when it hits Louisiana. Last night they said that the wind shear alone was going to dampen the fury of Hurricane Francine. The wind shear alone and the dryness of the air over Texas would dampen the strength of Hurricane Francine. Now they're saying Hurricane Francine may become a Category 2 storm. You need to be very emphatic about this with your families, with your friends that live down in this area. I'm telling you right now, Category 2 storm is nothing to shake your head about. You need to be prepared. Whether you're going to shelter in place in your homes, or whether you're going to bug out, and the time to bug out is right now. The time to leave is right now, immediately. Immediately, guys. And I'm not kidding you. The longer you wait to leave your homes and go someplace else, either west or east, you're going to run into problems. The first problem you're going to run into once you get out on the road is everybody else is going to have the same thoughts. They're either going to go east or west. There is no in between, because the storm is going to track to the north. If you go north, you'll still be in the storm's path. Okay? Yes, after it hits land, the storm will subside somewhat. But it depends on if the storm also stalls out. If this storm stalls out, the northern part of Louisiana, northeastern Texas will be affected. And off to Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Mississippi will also be affected. They've already been evacuating people along the Gulf Shore of Mississippi and Louisiana and over in Texas. They've already set mandatory and voluntary evacuation points right now. But if you even think that you're going to want to bug out, you need to do it right now. You need to do it right now, if not sooner. If not sooner. I'm also asking those that are not subscribed to subscribe to this channel. This is what we do best. I have dealt with hurricanes before. I've dealt with a lot of hurricanes. After Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans back in 2014 or 2005. September 2005. Now it seems a long time ago, 19 years ago. That was a Category 4 storm. This may be something very close to that. Now I'm going to play for you some information on Fox News, Fox Weather that you need to know about. Okay? It's very important. Please understand what we're saying here. Please understand what we're showing you. You need to know this. This information may save your life.
Hello, welcome inside Weather Command. I'm Stephen Morgan.
I'm Marissa Torres.
And I'm Michael Estimate.
Hey, thanks for joining us. It's been a busy Tuesday. It is also September 10th, which, as some of you may know, is the climatological peak of the Atlantic hurricane season.
It gets less busy from here. That's what I'm looking at. But no surprise that we are watching now a tropical storm making a run at hurricane status. Francine receiving that name about 24 hours ago. It's the 6th named storm of the season. The Gulf Coast, notably people in Louisiana, they need to get prepared, make those hurricane preps the final day of it today.
We just got our latest update on Francine. It is still a tropical storm. There's a look at the latest advisory, but it's also still anticipated to become a hurricane today. When you talk about some of the latest stats from the National Hurricane Center, it's about 400 miles south of the Louisiana coast. Right now, max was...
Look at that storm just northeast of this tropical storm. That's incredible. Look at the centers on the bottom or the top left side of that storm. That is also typical of what we see when we see a hurricane, the eye of a hurricane. That is a huge storm there, just off the coast of Texas and Louisiana. That's right smack dab in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. Okay?
Sustained winds again at 65 miles per hour. It did pick up speed just a little bit to 8 miles per hour, and we also noticed the pressure drop. Francine continues to move across the western Gulf, and it could reach Category 2 before landfall on Wednesday. But Stephen, the question within all of that is, when would it reach Category 2, and would it weaken it?
Yeah, you watched us live on air talking about it, and we're still having discussions about this latest intensity forecast. Watches and warnings have been issued along the Gulf Coast. A hurricane warning's in effect for coastal Louisiana from the Sabine Pass east to Grand Isle. You see it there. Evacuations, some have been mandatory. Cameron Parish, we have some mandatory evacuations there. In Grand Isle, a lot of voluntary evacuation, but the exceptions of campers and RVs, those have been mandatory. All these evacuations, in fact, starting yesterday at around 11, then lasting 2 p.m. or so, I think was when the mandatory went into effect for Cameron Parish. Nonetheless, when we're looking at this system, the storm is still trying to organize. Live looks, Lake Charles, New Orleans, we've got that moisture moving in. From a storm count perspective, Francine is the 6th named storm, but if it strengthens into a hurricane, it would be our 4th of the season. And this follows Beryl, Debbie, and Ernesto. 5 named storms, 5 landfalls, and we're going to be looking at our 6th with a 6th landfall. For a season that's had a remarkable lull, the average date of the 4th hurricane is September 16th, so it seems we're going to be ahead of schedule yet again.
All right, let's bring in Fox Weather hurricane specialist Brian Norcross. And Brian, where to start? Because we were breaking this down here at the desk, and I guess I'll just kick it off with the part that we found most interesting. When you look at the forecast cone, especially when it comes to intensity, as quoted by the NHC in the write-up, they said, while it's not explicitly shown in the latest forecast, the cyclone could reach peak intensity near 85 knots, which would put it at a Category 2 hurricane. But the idea is that intensification would stop before landfall. Not explicitly stated, though, in that cone. Why do you think that's so?
Yeah, because they use the 6-hour, 12-hour forecast increments. So the first increment for the 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Central Time forecast would be 8 p.m. and then 8 a.m. And so if the peak occurs in between those times, it doesn't have a line there to show, okay, it's going to peak. But what they're saying is that intensification should continue up until the point offshore, and then the system would start to weaken as it comes onshore. The consensus of all the computer models is that the upper level winds are suddenly going to pick up. It's not going to be a gradual process, but they're suddenly going to get kind of hostile, and that should start weakening the system just offshore and as it's coming onshore, so that might be a little good news. But we have to get there first, and as of right now, we still see, look at the satellite and the radar.
Okay, I want to stop this real quick. Look at the outer bands of this storm. Look at the outer bands of this storm. This storm is already buffeting northeastern Mexico and Brownsville, Texas, in that area. Lots of rain. And also look very closely here. There are embedded thunderstorms. There are embedded thunderstorms here. You can see them. These embedded thunderstorms are very dangerous. Those thunderstorms spin off tornadoes as well. So now we have also a tornado risk as well as high winds, storm surge, and this eye of the hurricane coming out. This is going to be a very mean storm. You can see already these outer bands of the hurricane. Okay? Yes, it is a tropical storm, but it is an outer bands of a coming hurricane. And this is going to pick up. I fully expect by tonight this to be a Category 1 hurricane. Tonight, a Category 1 hurricane. By tomorrow morning, this may very well be already a Category 2 hurricane. Okay? I'm giving you this heads up. Berlinda's asking if this is going to affect Florida. Not right now. This storm will not affect Florida at all. However, you already see that upper air mass to the northeast. Thunderstorms there and rain. And that storm may come into northern Florida. That storm may affect Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. I'm just giving you a heads up. This is going to be a mean storm.
See is this dry air tongue that's wrapping around in here, and no doubt that's part of what has slowed the process of intensification beyond what we thought yesterday. Hurricane hunters out there right now, and they're finding the strongest winds down in this part of the system, which is farthest away from Brownsville, where the radar is coming out of. But that's where the strongest winds are right now, and we'll just see if they can wrap around the storm, push the dry air out, and how quickly it can intensify. Hurricane Center says it's going to happen pretty quickly. And look at this up here, this massive area of thunderstorms. Again, we're limited in what we can see because it's land-based radar, but this is related to the circulation of Francine plus that old front. You can kind of see that old...
Don't let Kamala Harris fool you. Harris not only supports...
I'm sorry, guys.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve the...
Or down here, but these are big thunderstorms in a big area here. So exactly how that might affect how quickly this develops is a bit of an open question because there's a lot of randomness to what's going on with the flowing of the air. All right, here's the cone that we were talking about just a moment ago, and you see the idea is that by later today, it says it's a hurricane, and then up to 90 miles an hour offshore, that's a top-end Category 1. Then the question is, what's going to happen tomorrow later in the morning into the midday as it's just offshore? Is it going to continue to intensify in this area? What's it going to peak at? Because then the thinking is that when it's inland, it's a little bit weaker, but somewhere in this area here, it's going to weaken because the upper level winds are going to start impacting it. Does that happen just offshore? Does that happen just ashore? It's just no way to know because it's a very, very fine line there. The consensus is that it actually happens over in this area in here before landfall, and so the storm is weakening as it's coming ashore. Let's hope that's the case, but we can't bet on it. So the Hurricane Center is kind of taking a middle ground here. The idea it peaks just offshore, slowly weakens as it comes onshore. There's the idea of the size of the storm from the National Hurricane Center. If it goes down the middle of the cone over here, so these are the hurricane force winds, these are the hurricane force gusts. So you see that includes the Lafayette, New Iberia area up into Baton Rouge potentially, especially with gusts, and New Orleans right on the fringe. And if the storm were to lean to the right side of the cone, New Orleans would get some of those hurricanes force gusts. And then you have the water on the outside here being driven this way on up toward the coast, and that's why we have expanded warnings, because the outer part of the storm is going to be pushing that water in toward the coast, even over into Mississippi and possibly toward Alabama. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the winds. So the purple area, that's where the strongest winds are forecast. That's where the hurricane warning is forecast. Notice they have issued hurricane warnings as far north as Baton Rouge now. So even though the storm will be weakening as it moves inland, hurricane warning means be ready for hurricane force winds up into the capital there with all those big trees, magnificent trees and so forth. So that is quite dangerous there. So everybody, even well inland, be ready for all this. Tropical storm warnings for Metro New Orleans. Now, let's take a look at the storm surge. The storm surge warning is extended. A storm surge warning means be ready for life-threatening storm surge. So it doesn't mean that all through that area there's going to be life-threatening storm surge. It means that based on the best we know with the forecast, you have to be ready in the storm surge warning area. That's where really the takeaway there. And you can see the storm surge forecasts are really complicated all across the coast, because storm surge has to do with the size of the storm, the intensity of the storm, and what exactly the coast is shaped like. So down here on the southern coast, where you have up to 10 feet above normal high tide, that's the coast there is very low. Storm surge can go well inland. There's nothing really to stop it, and there's a very gradual slope there. Over on this east side, which includes Metro New Orleans, where you have up to 5 feet of storm surge, if the wind can come pretty strong from this direction, that pushes the water into Lake Bourne here, Lake Pontchartrain, and Lake Maurepas. All those lakes kind of connect through a swampy area there, and so that's above normal high tide, sort of at the upper limit. So people around that lake in Laplace and other places that have seen storm surge, you kind of know what your limit is because there are levees involved and so forth. So this is a situation where it really varies almost by neighborhood on exactly which wind direction floods which areas around those lakes and also around the coastline there. So,
okay, I want you to remember that. Okay, Lake Bourne to the east of Lake Pontchartrain. If those winds get going there, they're going to blow that water from Lake Bourne over Lake Pontchartrain. Lake Pontchartrain is almost an inland sea. It's that big. Lake Pontchartrain is almost an inland sea. There's a lot of water in it. When I went to Katrina after Katrina left this area, Lake Pontchartrain was completely flooded out. That area is below sea level. When there was storm surge from Hurricane Katrina, that water went well inland. That water flooded out cemeteries. We saw caskets on the side of the roads. We saw caskets floating in Lake Pontchartrain. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen now, because at this point in time, we don't even have a Category 1 storm. However, before the end of today, possibly by the time we come on the air at 6 p.m., Francine could be a Category 1 storm. It's still just below that threshold. But the winds are what we're worried about. Lake Pontchartrain getting water from Lake Bjorn to the east is going to flood. And that flooding out to the west on Lake Pontchartrain is going to flood those neighborhoods. So that's the other issue. Lake effect flooding. Lake effect flooding. All the way over to the west of La Place. Okay? That whole area. I fully expect each and every ward in New Orleans to be flooded or to have some kind of flooding. Again, right now, they are expecting upwards of a 10-foot storm surge. Out to the east of there, a 5-foot storm surge. 5-foot wall of water. A 5-foot wall of water. Okay? If you're going to bug out, the time to bug out is right now. Now, I will be continuing this broadcast tonight at 6 p.m. But my broadcast at 6 p.m. will be more suited to hurricane preparations. Hurricane preparations including evacuations and sheltering in place. Does anybody have any questions for me? James Breckett says Ron is monetized. I'm only monetized when YouTube decides to monetize me. Even though they throw these huge ads in all the time, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm getting any money from it. And it's only pennies at that. They only pay me 1 or 2 cents for every ad that they throw up. That's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. Anyway, does anybody have any questions? That's why I came on the air right now, to advise you what is going on with Francine. It's important. It's very important. Okay, if you guys don't have any questions, I will be back here at 6 p.m. to talk about Hurricane Francine and hurricane preparations. That is where we're going tonight. Last night I talked to you about emergency preparedness kits and what you need. Tonight I'm going to talk about hurricane preparations. During, or actually before, during, and after the hurricane. We've only done these kind of broadcasts once before. Folks, I love you. I care about you. I want you to know I'm here for your safety and your loved one's safety. Folks, pass this program on. Share it to your friends and your relatives. Anybody that might be in harm's way. Share it far and wide. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. When you subscribe, there's also a little bell icon. It's either in a little circle or it's just a little bell icon. Click on the bell icon. Clicking on the bell icon, a drop-down menu of 3 items will come up. Click on the word ALL, all. That should get you notified when we come on the air. Folks, it's important. It's important. We want to grow this channel. 25% of the people that watch this program are not subscribed. We need you to subscribe to this channel. Also, folks, YouTube has also begun unsubscribing people. Check your subscription and make sure you're still subscribed to this channel. We want to grow this channel, not for me, but for you. Growing this channel will expand our reach outward. So we're going to be hitting more people, getting more people's attention on what's going on. This is absolutely important. My last channel here on YouTube, before YouTube took it down, was 25,000 subscribers. YouTube doesn't like me. I don't think they've ever liked me. So far, they have not taken this channel down once in the last year and a half. I've been on YouTube now over 5.5 years. We want to expand this. We want to expand this. Folks, again, we're going to be coming back on the air at 6 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Make sure your friends, your family, and relatives are notified about this program. We're going to talk about Hurricane Francine and the implications of what that means. So be here and join us at 6 p.m. Eastern Time with Emergency Management Associates. I hope you have a good day and what's left of it, and please be safe. God be with you until we meet again. We will see you on the other side of this.